You're now listening to Directing Magic with your host, Marquette Jones.
Hello. Welcome back to the Directing Magic podcast. This time we have Bridget Stokes. And she is a writer, director, producer extraordinaire, and also a fellow member of Femme Fatales, which is how we met. Say hello to everybody. Bridget.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Marquette. Thank you for having me.
So I'm so glad you're here, and I'm so glad you took your time out on your wonderful Saturday, even though it doesn't get released on Saturday. I know that Saturdays are a valuable time for family and life and everything besides recording a podcast. So I appreciate you being here. Thank you.
I'm very happy to be here.
So tell us a little bit about your background. I already said that you're a writer, director, producer. Which thing are you most?
Director, for sure. I think mostly producing jobs come up. I get the opportunity to produce more often than anything else. And writing is something that I sort of reserve for pure joy. And never want to pressure myself into, but the most energy and effort I put in is always towards directing.
Awesome. So what are you directing right now?
I just finished a short film that I directed and I ended up producing. It's called Think Fast, and we're in the festival submission process. We just wrapped post last month, so crossing our fingers, hoping we get in somewhere. Yeah, that's what I just finished, and I am...
What is it about?
It's about a woman who is a rising star at an agency, has been sort of the mentee of the owner of the agency, but he's undercutting her left and right, and we find her on a night where he just goes one step too far. So she ends up trying to save her relationship with a client with the help of her younger assistant, Dan, and the night goes crazy. I won't give away the end, but there are plot twists, and it's a really fun film.
I got to see it, and it's super cute, and I was like, yeah, girl. I really, empathize with the lead character as another woman in a leadership position, and it's really cool. Congratulations on it.
Thank you. That's what drew me to it, was that it had this strong female lead, and I like that you empathize with her, because I felt that way too. But it's a really, really interesting to get other people's takes on it, because a lot of people feel, that she's ruthless and cutthroat and ambitious, and I'm like, well.
Right.
If it were about a different gender, then we might be in a situation where you felt better about this person, so.
What type of agency is it?
It's like akin to a CAA.
Oh, okay. Like a talent agency. Awesome.
Yeah.
So what made you write this piece?
Well, I didn't write this. This came to me through the writer and executive producer who... I was referred to by a friend, really. She told this person that she was looking for directors and she'd love to work with a woman, and I was referred to her, and we met and we really hit it off, and she felt like I got where she was going with it, and so that's how we ended up working on it together.
Very cool, very cool. This is not your first thing that you've directed. You've done a feature before as well.
Sure, yep. I wrote the feature that I directed. That was, it feels like a lifetime ago. It's called Herman and Shelley.
Mm-hmm.
And, I have a partner I work with. Her name's Vicky White, and she produced it. And then a couple years later, I produced her feature that she wrote and directed.
Oh, got it. Because of course I was going to ask you, how did you end up producing The Volunteer? But now I know.
Yeah, and then she wrote Emmett. Well, your listeners won't know. Emmett is the feature that I'm developing to direct next. Vicky wrote Emmett, for me to direct, and then we'll do another film with her that she adapted a book called The Lost Husband, and I'll produce that and she'll direct it. So just go back and forth.
That sounds wonderful. That sounds like heaven.
It's fun. It's fun. It's nice to have a partner in crime.
Mm-hmm. So what was Herman and Shelley about?
Herman and Shelley was about it was a group of friends that had grown up together and then sort of fallen out of touch and then got back together because of a tragedy, and were all sort of realizing that they were stunted artists who may or may not have future friendships with each other.
And can people find that online to watch?
I just yanked it from the distributor. You can see it on my website. I put the whole thing on my website, BridgetStokes.com, so you can see the whole thing there, actually.
Why did you yank it?
It was great. It was great. It went up 5 years ago. Cinetic acquired it and put it up on Amazon and all the sort of digital outlets. And, I had the option to renew the contract with Cinetic, and I sort of decided I'd like to keep Herman and Shelley for myself and, figure out a new strategy for it if one exists, this out. It was nice having it on Amazon and getting 12 people a year watching it, but I think, but I think, having my body of work sort of under my own ownership is something that I'm looking at and sort of trying to develop a strategy for the content that I've created.
Mm-hmm. And what are you considering as far as the strategy goes?
It may be sort of just that it goes on Vimeo and maybe there's a tip jar. It may be that, I just hold on to it for a little bit. It's something I'm sort of still trying to figure out, and obviously with Vicky, who produced the film, figuring out what the strategy is. Because it's sort of a long, arduous road getting it up on these outlets such as Amazon and iTunes, and then I just wanted to take a step back and consider whether that was actually valuable for me as a filmmaker.
I'm trying to figure out how to monetize my short film that I just did, Forgiving Chris Brown. And I was looking at Amazon, and it's like, it's easy to go up, but they pay you like 3 cents.
Yeah, it's like Spotify for musicians.
Yeah. Like literally 3 cents for every 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's tough.
I was like, how? I can't even buy coffee. Like, what are you talking about? Anyway, yeah. So I didn't choose that option. But then the other options, like putting it on iTunes yourself and stuff like that, it's not cheap, and it's not easy.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. And I think, what are the reasons? And all I can sort of come up with is legitimacy.
Yeah.
Which at the end of the day, I felt like I've experienced 5 years of what that legitimacy looks like. So yeah.
Wait, what do you mean by that?
I mean, I didn't see that I netted anything from having it up on these sites, and I sort of felt like it was a line in my bio, so sounds good. But I also think, this is a product that I created.
Right.
That we created. And, I have to figure out what life it has and what the marketing strategy is for that product. And I got to take it off the shelf while I figure that out.
I like it. You're taking control of your destiny, so to speak, especially on the online stuff, because there's so much changing right now with all the streaming options and VOD options and self-distribution options and all that sort of stuff.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting to play with that.
And are you doing the same thing with The Volunteer?
No, the volunteer, we really struggled to find the right place for it, and ultimately did decide to put it up on Amazon maybe a year ago. And, it was, again, just sort of, let's figure out if this is a workable strategy. We tried some new things. And it was especially, it having been Vicky's first feature as a director, it was important for her to be able to have that line, to be able to say, okay, go and see it on Amazon.
Right.
For Herman and Shelley, it was a little bit different just because we were 5 years out. We didn't feel like,
Right.
We'd done it.
Right.
So we'll see what we'll here, and then maybe we'll decide the same thing. I mean, it will be a case-by-case basis.
I watched The Volunteer last night on Amazon, so there's that.
Oh, great. Well, see, it's all worth it.
Well, we get 3 cents on the $3 that they charge me.
I don't know. Yes, we won't spend it all in one place.
But for the listeners, though, it's a really cool movie, and you can find it on Amazon. It's really easy to just download and check it out. It's available for rent for 7 days, I think, for $2.99.
Yep, it's a good deal.
It is. It's a great deal, and it's good acting, and it's a good story.
Oh,
Yeah.
Fabulous actors. I love that movie so much, and I think Vicky and I would both love to work with all of those actors again.
And who was in it?
It stars Ingenue Ellis and Hill Harper, Eben Moss-Bachrach, Mary Beth Hurt. It has Scott Wolf for those Party of Five fans out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's Issa Davis, who's a phenomenal talent, and Noah Gray Cabey as a young man.
Mm. And the woman who is the homeless shelter kind of executive director, which one is she?
That's Mary Beth Hurt.
Oh, she's awesome.
She is a force. She's phenomenal. Yeah. But it was just a fun group. It was just really working with high caliber talent. It was really fun.
And how did you, casting wise, how were you able to attract such a strong cast? Just across the board, it's a strong cast. How were you able to do that?
We had an amazing casting director. Her name's Rory Bergman, and we work with her on everything. She's currently helping us out with The Lost Husband, which is something we're going out to Leeds for right now. She's out of New York, and she's amazing. Mm-hmm. She just works so hard for us.
Fantastic. What? So we've got your overall kind of filmography. Let's talk about your journey. How did you know that you wanted to essentially dedicate your life to filmmaking?
I've always wanted to be an artist, and so that's always been, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be an artist, and it sort of took different forms. I was into drawing and painting when I was very young, and then when I got into high school, I discovered photography, and I was like, oh my God, this is, it really, got me. And then at some point in high school, I decided maybe I wanted to do furniture design, and I looked at a lot of art colleges, and I ended up choosing Brown University because they had this partnership with RISD, Rhode Island School of Design, where you could take up to 8 art classes a year. Maybe it was 4 art classes. You could take a certain amount of art classes per year, and there was no paperwork. You just sort of went and you could take classes at RISD. And so I thought I would continue to do photography and art and really concentrate in that. And then I had a class called Intro to Modern Culture and Media. And it's discussed semiotics, and it discussed Michel Foucault, and you saw films like Judo, and you saw just Citizen Kane. You saw all these sort of incredible films, which I had not been exposed to, and learned about signs and symbolism and culture, and it was just a mind-blowing like it just exploded my head. And it also was, I guess I'm a little embarrassed to say that at 18 I was like, oh, I can make making movies is a job.
Yeah.
I can do. And so and there was a lot of talk in this particular class, and then moving on, I ended up concentrating in art semiotics and working with these professors throughout. There's a lot of talk about being an auteur, which just struck the heart of me. That said, my 34-year-old self might go back to my 18-year-old self and said, yeah, people do it as a job, but that was the start of it. And then I had one professor in particular, because in college it was also a time when I started to really think about race and identity in a way that I had not been able to before. And there was a professor, Tony Stokes, at Brown, who my friend and I, Shirley Johnson and I, would just we took every class he offered as we could sort of explore these issues of race and identity and gender and make films about it. And it was just like, I mean, it's everything you want college to be. It just expands your mind beyond. So that was the start of it. And then I knew from there that I wanted to make independent films, and that the place to do that was New York City. I headed straight to New York. And I got I got an internship at Tribeca Productions. I worked for the Urban World Film Festival. Then, really struggled to figure out how to do production. But was offered a job at IFC Films in distribution and marketing and distribution. And it was a little sort of sidestep, but pretty incredible, because it was at a time when it was at the moment, and I guess this was around 2005, when there was this shift starting to happen, and IFC was sort of at the forefront because they were doing day and date films. So they were releasing films in these independent theaters and video on demand. And it really had to start with these small independent films, because obviously there is so much more to be lost at the studio level. And so myself and a team of, it was myself and two other women who were releasing 2 to 3 films every month. And I got to sort of meet these incredible filmmakers. And since it was 2 executives, and then I was like assisting everybody, I would take Steve Buscemi to his screening at the Jacob Burns Film Center, and I got to work with Ryan Werner and Bingham Ray and Emily Woodburn and Courtney Ott, and all these people who are just sort of incredible in the independent film distribution world. And, we'd release Lars von Trier films, and Bryce Dallas Howard would be there. And it was just like, for somebody just out of college, it was like the best education, that I could get. And so that was great. And then I sort of got knocked up, and on purpose, and ended up taking a temporary gig, doing research on a documentary on Bob Marley, directed by Jonathan Demme, which unfortunately never saw the light of day.
Why is that?
It had sort of switched. It had been a Scorsese movie, and then Jonathan Demme movie, and then I think ultimately it may have been released in some very different form under another director. But I lost the train, and I ended up doing that, and then starting a distribution company with Vicky White and Emily Woodburn. And Vicky's the one who I've been making movies with ever since. We did distribution, and then I think Vicky was the impetus. She at one point said, "You know what? I'm not going to spend another minute not making movies." So
Right on.
Yeah. let's write some scripts and make them. And that was really the spark before we made Herman and Shelley and the Volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
We were just sort of cheering each other on and saying, come hell or high water, we're going to make these. And you know this probably. I mean, I think all filmmakers know when you're doing your first movie, there's a magic there in that you don't know how hard it is or what it's going to take. And I think, once you've done it, there's a little bit of, you're crippled a little bit in that you're like, oh, I know exactly how easy it is for all of this to fall apart. So there was that magic there, I think.
Well, but you did it twice. I mean, you did it for the Volunteer and for Herman and Shelley. So
it's true, and I think again, I would cite the partnership as being the reason, because there's somebody there.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of filmmakers go it alone. They're the one champion. They're the one person pushing this rock up the hill.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we got to tag each other in and out in a lot of ways, and that was what allowed us to do the two.
Mm-hmm. And now you're you're in development with Emmett, which is your new project.
Emmett, we're developing Emmett and The Lost Husband simultaneously.
Okay.
Because now we're sort of working more in that Hollywood system, so it's like, oh, things take so much longer when you're not just doing a Kickstarter campaign and using your house for 8 of the locations,
Speaking about that, like, what are some of the significant differences between having been in New York making movies versus being in Los Angeles area making movies?
Yeah, well, I think I had thought New York was this major hub of independent filmmaking, but I think it's more of a major hub of independent film appreciation. And so coming out here, I've been in LA a few years. Coming out here at first, I was like, oh man, you can't make anything in LA, which was really just, I had to realize that everybody I know is New York based. Like, I have to build up a base of contacts here, and building a network takes years. So now that I've been here a while, I do see, and I was fortunate to do film fatales in New York and film fatales in LA. Mm-hmm. And, the great thing about LA is everybody is focused on working. And whereas in New York, it really, it was an offshoot of college in that there's a lot of discussing and talking and maybe not as much of a focus. And I don't want to say, I'm not saying this in a way to diminish New York. People make things in New York, of course. I think there is a huge industry here. Mm-hmm. And people talk about, well, how do I get paid? And people talk about, well, what are the logistics of being on set? What are the logistics of getting a job? What are the logistics of once I'm in post? There's much more of that, which is definitely what I need at this point in my career. I need to be surrounded by the industry, and it's nice to be here and feel that. Mm.
For people who don't know, Femme Fatales is a all-volunteer organization that basically supports women directors, female directors. And it started by Leah Meyerhoff. I don't know what year, but it's like a peer-to-peer support network. Does that sound right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it must have been 2012, 2013.
And it has blown up since then.
Chapters everywhere, international chapters.
Yeah. And actually, cool. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, Vicky is part of the Austin Film Fatales, so I'll just run into people who know Vicky through Film Fatales, and it's cool to have this little group. You'll be at an LA meeting and someone will be visiting from the New Orleans Film Fatales. It's fantastic. It's such a good...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't speak highly enough about it. I haven't said this to anybody yet, but I will say it now. Like, being a part of Film Fatales is what sparked me wanting to do the podcast.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I went to Cucalera's Film Festival last year, and I was on this panel that was a Film Fatales panel, women in film, whatever. And so I was on the panel and we were talking, and then people were asking me really smart questions, and I had an answer, not the answer, but I just had thoughts about it, opinions or whatever. And I'm like, oh, I don't want this to end. Let's keep talking. And then it was like, yeah, we have to go home now. So anyway, so that kind of like started me thinking about how great it felt to feel in community with a bunch of other people who had opinions about the different things that were going on in the industry. And so now here we are. Ta-da!
Yeah, it's so great.
So you were talking about you guys keeping each other motivated over the course of the different projects that you're working on. Have you noticed any differences between the industry now and putting a film together versus when you first started?
For better or for worse, I think when we started, it was the industry had already begun to be really in flux, and we maybe thought, or I think I don't want to speak for Vicky, but I thought when we made Herman and Shelley, it was still a time when you could make an independent film and go to a festival and start a career. And I think it was a little bit simpler. By the time it came out, it was like, oh no, everybody's making movies for under $100,000, and there's a glut of them, and theatrical is sort of diminishing, and DVD is diminishing, and now it's the digital realm, and you can have your film available digitally, but we don't really know what that means or how anyone can make money from it. And so that's definitely still going. I think content creators everywhere are, struggling to figure out how to make product and where it can live. And the money going towards movies, especially movies that aren't, the studio tentpoles, is just diminishing.
Do you think people will stop making micro budget features because of that?
No. I think people are going to make micro budget content because they have to, because they can't not tell their stories, and and that will be the only way for them to do it. Fortunately, there is television, and there is the web series option, and there are definitely ways to do it and to find an audience. It's just that the audience is so fragmented.
Mm-hmm.
So I think all of us as storytellers have to think very long and hard about who our audience is and how we're going to reach them well before we even go into pre-production.
And so who do you think is your audience for Emmett? I'm going to keep coming back to Emmett because I read the script and I love it and I want you to make it. So
I love it too. Well, Vicky and I had always conceived of Emmett as something that you can watch with the whole family. I mean, it's a little bit, the tenor of maybe a Fantastic Mr. Fox, where it's for adults. It can be for children. It sort of has these universal themes. It's a coming-of-age story. It's funny. It's totally weird in a wonderful and imaginative way.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think of films like Waking Ned Divine, like Love Actually, films that they're wonderful and special and magical, and you can watch them at any age. But I think as far as from a marketing standpoint and the audience we would approach, it would be that sort of family, the kind of urban parent who's going to take their kids to see something that's not the new Pixar movie.
And what's like the 2-line version of the story?
So it's a coming-of-age comedy about a 12-year-old genius who's in high school with his older brother. They're in the same class. His brother's 17 and he's 12. And the brother's getting in trouble. He's going this way and that way. He gets accused of a bunch of thefts at the school and is going to get shipped off to boarding school, basically. And Emmett has to save him. He has to clear his name and save him. So he teams up with his 60-year-old SAT tutor to exonerate his brother. It's just he has this wonderful relationship with the tutor, and he is this charismatic kid who goes into his mind to sort of sort through things. So you see him living the reality of high school, but then you see sort of what his perception of it is. And I think it's great because I think, especially at that age, you do create, things become more epic. And you are the center of your own story. And it does feel more life and death. So to see that actually play out in Emmett's imagination is going to be really, really great.
And this is an African-American lead, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I am like, oh, so she can jump on this whole Black Boy Joy thing. Have you seen that hashtag?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you got to check it out. It's wonderful.
That's great. Yeah, I will.
I hope that it sparks the same way like Black Girl Magic has sparked. But Black Boy Joy has kind of like been filtering through the Twitter universe a little bit more, and I feel like this type of story, and the story in particular, is like really in line with that. Like, yes, like there's so much more, and so the magic of it.
Right. Yeah, well, that is for Vicky and I. It's just been we have no interest in making a movie that doesn't have a diversity of voices. I mean, and I also think like. I don't want to reference other interviews you've done, but there are films out there that are, there's 12 Years a Slave, and there's Nate Parker's new movie, and those are really important films. But I want to see movies where people are just being people, and they're not referencing their blackness or their whiteness or how they fit into this Asian stereotype, or, oh, that's this Latino thing that they did. And you can't say that because everybody is just a fully fleshed out human character. We should all be able to see ourselves in the hero. We shouldn't have the barrier of saying, well, that can't be me because that's a black kid, or that can't be me because that's an old white woman. I mean, it's just so limiting.
I mean, I love that idea of everyone should be able to see themselves as a hero.
Absolutely.
That's where I think as a society, I think that's the direction we're going, whether or not everybody wants to get on board.
I hope you're right. I hope it's not a phase. I hope it is, a one-way ticket to enlightenment. I hope that's true.
Well, let's see. So I think last time I kind of did like hot topics, and it got quite hot. But I'll keep it. I'm gonna try my very, very best to keep it light this time. Are you watching or listening to anything that you're excited about right now?
Oh gosh, this is a cliche right now, but I could not go a day without somebody telling me about Stranger Things.
Oh, really?
Oh my gosh. It was like, oh, you haven't seen it, you have to watch. And my husband was experiencing the same thing, so we just decided to buckle down and start that series. And it was pretty incredible. It was like so good that I got mad a little bit, and I was like, oh, put the second one on. Put the third one on. I mean, we watched it in 2 sessions. We stayed up till 3 a.m. last night finishing it.
Wow.
And just very impressed with the tone. It was just a really special little mini-series. I was just completely tickled by it.
I couldn't get into it. I saw the first 2 episodes and I was just like, I don't know, one of the kids killed somebody or fought somebody or something, and I was just like, this is too dark.
It's dark. It's dark, and it's so funny that you say that, because I really am in a place right now where I'm like, what comedies can I watch? Because sometimes you really do need the escape, and sometimes it's like, no, I don't need to see all the negative stuff going on.
Yeah. I think I'm there. I'm like fully 100% there because I watched The Get Down over and over again.
What do you watch over and over?
The Get Down.
Oh, I can't wait to watch that.
Oh my God, you haven't seen it either? I keep trying to find somebody to you need to see it. And you need to see it because of Emmett, because I feel like everything that you've spoken about in terms of the kids seeing themselves as heroes is there, and the magic that is in the Emmett script that I read is there, and I just you need to see it.
Watch. Meek Moore is like, I mean, after I saw Dope, I was like, everybody in Dope. That's definitely on my list. But other than that, I'm doing this 52 films by women challenge. Do you know that?
Mm-hmm. But tell us about it. What is that?
So I'm gonna mess it up. I want to say Women in Film initiated it, and it's a hashtag, and hopefully more than that. It's a challenge to watch 52 films directed by women in a year. So it's one film a week directed. Mm-hmm. It has been such a challenge for me, not because there aren't enough movies. There are enough movies. We're very underrepresented, but there are plenty of films out there directed by women. But because I had really made the effort before this challenge to see, so it was like there weren't any old films I could watch. I felt like I'd seen so many, and but now I'm getting into a lot of the more independent stuff and really enjoying it, and I feel like it's shifted my. I'm like, I was watching too much media that was not directed by women. There's a definite, it's like once you see, there's such a variety of voices out there, and there's such a small segment of the population that gets to make movies, and often often it takes a lot of money. Often it takes there's an insider thing that's going on, so it has been revelatory because I don't have that much time to watch more than a week anyway. So I'm legitimately not watching anything unless it's directed by a woman.
I see. Great. So is there anything that you, has your perspective as a director changed at all, having watched as many movies as you watched by women in the last year?
No. I'm not one of those people who can watch things as a director. I cannot not be an audience member, I know people watch things for shots and, how they laid out the story. And I'll turn something on. I'll say, okay, I'm just watching this for shots. 2 seconds in, I'm like riveted. What's the story? What's going to happen? I would have to watch something really not compelling to pay attention to those sort of mechanical things that make up a movie. Mm-hmm. But I don't know how much I'm influenced by what I watch, because I really go to a different place in my brain when I'm watching.
As opposed to when you're directing.
When I'm directing and when I'm I guess the part where I'm thinking about it is when I'm shot listing and when I'm telling the story visually in my head, when I'm running the movie in my mind. I'm sure every museum I've visited and every book I've read and every movie I've seen informs that. I couldn't, not in a way that I could sort of pull out and say, oh, I'm just not one of those filmmakers who says, oh, I'm gonna do this the way Wes Anderson did it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I do.
And Wes Anderson I feel he is a huge influence on me. I love his aesthetic. It doesn't go linearly like that for me.
Mm-hmm. I could see the Wes Anderson influence in the script, in the script, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a quirkiness there that is reminiscent of Wes Anderson, absolutely.
It's not a ripoff or anything like that, for sure. But the fact that the child...
Don't sue me.
Say that again?
I said, yeah, no, Wes Anderson, don't sue me. It's definitely not. No, I think there's the Wes Anderson influences. I think, Almodovar is Almodovar. I've heard it both ways. Do you know?
Not any more than you.
Okay. Well, he's a huge influence.
But say his name again, though.
Pedro Almodovar?
Yes.
Yeah. He's fabulous, and his films are like a party and a concert and, everything all in one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there are definitely filmmakers who have influenced me, but it's because, I love their movies, and then I don't know how I take from them, but I know I love their movies. I know I love movies as full and as joyful as those films.
Mm-hmm. But, with Almodovar, he has a very dark joy.
Oh, yeah, but it's fun, There's such levity to it.
I adore him. I've watched every movie that he's ever made, but I don't know.
Recent ones?
I feel like I didn't watch the last one yet. And he's made so many, they kind of blend together for me a little bit at this point.
Yeah, I missed the last two.
But yeah, he's awesome. Anybody who hasn't checked him out, they should totally.
Oh, yes. Especially his early stuff.
Especially his early stuff. Do you have a favorite?
Talk to Her. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I love that movie.
And that is dark. Just FYI.
It's dark. I guess it's hopeful though. It's hopeful. Look at where we end up. So to me, there's the inevitable circle of life, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think, as a society, and for me in particular, I'm like, we got to confront sickness and death in the same way that we confront romantic love and birth and new beginnings,
Mm-hmm.
And to address those dark things with a sense of humor and with hopefulness and with a sense of this is the circle of life. Every end is a new beginning. I think that's what he does, and I think it's so beautiful and poetic the way he does it that, mixed with some Tarantino-esque caper qualities, it's just so fun.
Yeah, yeah.
They're action movies too, honestly.
Yeah, true. I think he kind of gets off on the melodrama, literal soap opera-ness, which I enjoy, but and to me that's the joyful part of it. But some of his subject matter, and I don't mind it, but his subject matter gets really
right.
almost inside, creepy crawly inside your skin, kind of.
Well, yeah. And there's films I really don't like The Skin I Live In was...
Yeah.
That was it wasn't I won't say it's a terrible film, but the way that I felt watching it, I would never subject myself to that again.
Exactly. I was like, what?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
But I think it's a testament to him and his craft that he makes everybody feel that way in that movie.
I guess, but I'm hesitant to give props for making me feel a certain way. I feel like Lars von Trier films are very manipulative, very emotionally manipulative.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm resentful.
Mm-hmm.
I watched Dancer in the Dark, and I'm like, I'm mad at you, man. You're terrible.
Why?
Because he just stabs you in the gut, and it feels like he's stabbing you to stab you. It doesn't feel like there's this story I have to tell you. Mm-hmm. I just cut out your heart. That's what it feels like watching almost every movie he's ever made.
I feel that way about the Coen brothers.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I love them. So what movie
Well,
are you thinking?
like No Country for Old Men.
Ooh.
The last 15 minutes. I'm like, did you have to do that? You didn't have to do that. You did that just to be a jerk.
Oh, and that's the crux of it. Do you have to do it, or are you just doing it?
Yeah.
That's a really interesting question. Yeah, that was a tough film, but I a film that I really love. I mean,
But I loved it though.
But then then they made The Big Lebowski, so you gotta
Yeah.
oh my gosh, and
Yeah.
that's a movie you can go back to over and over as like a comfortable blanket or something.
I agree. And honestly, like when people read or watch my stuff, they're like, "Oh yeah, you're influenced by the Coen brothers," and I'm like, "I am. I hate them."
I could see that, Marquette. I can see that. Absolutely, I could see that.
I don't. Hair flip.
And this is so funny the way you're talking about darkness, because now I'm really thinking about your short, and I'm like, I'm like, oh wait a second.
Okay, subject change. So you're a mom with a husband and 2 kids,
It's true.
and I find that you're a little bit of a unicorn as a female filmmaker.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm wondering how you balance all of that.
Oh, do I balance that? I think I think I don't know how to answer that question. Well, so raising kids is a partnership. My husband is wonderful. I mean, he's the chef. He's he educates. I mean, I cannot even say enough good things. Like, it's a partnership because the way that I'm able to balance all of this is because I am so supported, not just by my husband, but by my parents, by my in-laws. Like, I am surrounded with this massive group of friends and family who say, yes, I'll watch your crappy rough cuts. Yes, I'll read your first drafts. Yes, I'll watch your children while you go off and don't get paid to shoot some web series. I just have been so lucky, and I think this is the thing about filmmaking that reflects life. You don't do it alone. And it's something that I've realized over the course of my journey. I starting from when I was so enamored with this idea of the auteur to where I am now, where I'm like, that's such a bullshit concept. And the idea of a director going on stage and accepting an award and, having made this movie, and it's like, are you kidding me? Like, it took a whole city of people to make your movie. And if it wasn't for the inspiration that your costume designer had, or the dedication that your production designer put in, or the incredible eye that your cinematographer had, or the phenomenal depth that your actors brought to you'd have nothing. I mean, it's so many moving parts to make this one beautiful thing. And so, I mean, that's how I do life, and that's how I think anybody accomplishes anything is, you look at any successful person, you say they have a deep, deep, deep support system. There's no I about it. There's no, like, this person, has superpowers. They only sleep 2 hours a night. They just get more done than everybody else. No. They just have incredible people in their lives that allow them to do whatever it is they're doing.
Awesome. And for your kids, do they have like, I want to be a filmmaker when I grow up? Either of them?
No, I don't think so. My kids both want to be in the movies. I shot a short film with my daughter, and as I was getting to the sort of final stages of the cut, and I was showing it to my daughter and my son. My daughter's 7 and my son is 4. And my son's watching it intently, and he's asking questions, and he's saying, well, why is the girl doing this? And what's going on here? And then at the end, he just like bursts into tears, starts sobbing, and he's like, "What? I want to be in a movie."
Oh, wow.
I'm actually shooting something right now, where so it's a couple guys who are somehow related with the moth. You know that? And so they brought 6 storytellers in to tell these stories live, and had 6 screenwriters write scripts sort of loosely based on or inspired by these 6 stories. And then 6 filmmakers come and make these screenplays into short films. It's called Shoot 'em Up. And so I'm just about to make this short film, and the guy who wrote it, his name's Eric Acosta, he wrote a fantastic script, but I kind of adapted it so that my kids are in it. But I'm psyched because, and my husband's going to DP. It's going to be like this great little family film, and it's just one of those projects that you're like, oh, it's just all the joy of filmmaking.
I look forward to seeing that. That sounds really cute.
Yeah, I can't wait to show it to you.
So I think that's pretty much it for this wonderful conversation. I want to give you a chance to let people know how to find you, how to support you, all that good stuff.
I have a website. It's bridgetstokes.com. Company website is theinstantpictures.com. And you can follow me on Twitter at Murphy Stokes or Instagram at Murphy Stokes. That'll be great. It looks good when people are hiring you if you have a lot of followers, right? Sure.
This is very true, supposedly. Haven't necessarily been hired yet, but yeah. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your life with us and your journey, for telling us about your cool movies. If anybody, this is my own personal plug for you, if anybody wants to invest money in Emmett, about a little black boy genius, you should contact her. I read the script. I will personally say it is really awesome, and I can't wait to see it on the big screen. And that's it for the Directing Magic podcast. Thank you so much, Bridget.
Thank you so much, Marquette.
Peace.
Take care.
Okay, so that does it one more time for the Directing Magic podcast. A couple of things before I get out of here. One quick note on the Coen brothers. I feel like I should say I guess apologize for the fact that I said they were being jerks for the end of that movie. I actually should have said I felt jerked around. So please forgive me for that. And if by some miracle either one of them is listening, I love you guys. I would love to work for you, shadow you on your next thing, whatever. It sounds great. But the other thing is that my short film, Forgiving Chris Brown, is playing in Baltimore on October 9th for the Baltimore Black Film Festival. If you happen to be around that area, feel free to check it out. Or send me a message. I may even have free tickets for you if you're over that way. And then lastly, I just want to say thank you again for your time, for your listening ear, and hope you're doing something you're excited about.
You've been listening to Directing Magic with Marquette Jones. Be sure to visit directingmagic.com for past episodes and other information relating to the show. Also, be sure to subscribe and rate and comment on iTunes. Until next time, bye-bye.